Hello everybody, welcome back. It's me again. I had some book updates to give you, so I thought I'd sit down with a little chai and fill you in. I had such a cool weekend. I'm filming this on Sunday and I can just fill you in on all of the cute little things I have to tell you because I'm actually kind of excited to update you on these things. So, let me just have a sippy sip. Oh yeah. So, guys, I had an exciting Friday. The book girlies will understand this was an exciting Friday. I think it was honestly about 4 months ago, I saw that Taylor Jenkins Reid was doing a talk at the Barbican in London, which is essentially an event space that has a theatre, public library, a cinema, just loads of different art event spaces. And I'm always trying to just kind of keep an eye out for anything that's going on in London that's to do with books or publishing, because that's why we're all here. And I saw that Taylor Jenkins Reid was doing a talk and I was and I bought the ticket, no questions asked, and then it kind of just came around, and before I knew it, it was the day after tomorrow. It was on Friday, just been. Taylor Jenkins Reid is an American author, and she wrote the likes of Daisy Jones and the Six, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Malibu Rising, and most recently Carrie Soto. All of her books tend to have a female protagonist. Each book does kind of centre on a certain career path almost. Carrie Soto is tennis, Daisy Jones and the Six is music, Evelyn Hugo is film, and Malibu Rising is surfing and modelling, and they all kind of centre around key concepts of relationships, family, women, and fame, which is a really interesting topic, and she did talk about that. Anyway, and recently Daisy Jones and the Six was made into a TV series, which she did kind of touch on. So Daisy Jones and the Six, Evelyn Hugo, Malibu Rising, these are honestly some of my favourite books. I find her writing so enthralling. The storylines really grab you and you feel like you're in a real story. Daisy Jones and the Six, people thought it was about it's based off of Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac, but the whole thing is technically fictional. But you just feel like when you're reading it, because it's written in an interview way, in an interview format, I was like, so is this real then? Has she actually interviewed these people? Every single book has such complicated characters, such complex backstories, such intricate plots that all tie in together, and each one is its own world. You really do get lost in each one, and there are things where certain characters pop up in different books. She was saying at the talk that this was kind of her way of creating her own alternate universe where, okay, wouldn't it be fun if one of my main characters from another book just happened to make a cameo in another book? I'm a little bit sick, by the way, so if I sound it, I am. But yeah, anyway, so Friday comes around and I get to the Barbican and I was wearing a cute little outfit and I got there, and honestly, this theatre was huge. This event space was massive. I think they said there was over 2,000 people there to see this incredible author. It was mainly women. It was mainly, honestly, it looked like women in their 20s and 30s. Some of them I think had dragged their boyfriends along, or the boyfriend could have been a big fan as well, but that made me giggle. But it was just amazing to be in a room full of girls who all read... My cat's crashing about. You good? Nala? I think she's good. It was just so cool to be in a room full of girls who have all loved the same book and have fallen in love with this author, and we're all there for the same reason, is to just listen to this incredible woman speak. Yeah, it just felt like a really lovely community coming together. Obviously, it's so amazing that we have this digital space online for us to all share our ideas and talk about books, but just to kind of see all these people in one place. And I was hearing people next to me talk about their experience of reading Malibu Rising or Daisy Jones and the Six, and they were talking about it with such intensity and such like a personal affiliation to those books, and just felt really special. It's not every day that you're in a room with that many people who are truly into the same thing as you, and it's a very particular part of that thing. Yes, so many people are into books, but this was one author talking about her books. It was just a really special atmosphere. Everyone just seemed really excited, had little glasses of wine. But then Miss Taylor Jenkins Reid comes onto the stage, and she's wearing this beautiful black skirt, black jumper, black heels, and her family were in the audience, and she kept like referencing her husband and her daughter, and that just felt really special, and you could tell it meant a lot to her. What did make me giggle was behind them the whole time she was talking was just a big picture of her face. Like, I just can't imagine going on doing a talk and there just being a huge version of me behind me the entire time I'm talking. Anyway, I would say my key takeaways, if you like, from the event were: she likes to write about complex women who are not likeable. Like, they're not good girls. They're not there to please you or to be the female protagonist. They're just complex characters in their own right who do the wrong thing sometimes and have toxic traits and are just complex human beings. And she was saying, like, nobody is actually likable. Like, if you're honest with yourself, likable and good are just not traits that she ever kind of aspires to be or aspires her characters to be. She wants them to show the complexities of not only womanhood but also just being a person. That's a more realistic and relatable character to create than some like perfect depiction of a woman. But she does also put traits in her characters that she wished she had. She said she's a bit of a people pleaser, so she makes most of her female characters I don't give up characters. So she said that she really finds strength and like confidence through writing these characters, because for 6 months of a year she's fully ingrained in that character's head, thinking about how they would react to a certain situation, how they would speak. So that was really interesting. I really liked how she spoke about being a good girl shouldn't be like top of your list. Like, there's just so many other things you can be. So that was really exciting. Carrie Soto is back, is the only one of the latest books of hers that I haven't read, and this one is about Carrie Soto is the greatest player in the world. After 6 years after her last match, she watches a young British tennis player steal her world record, and Carrie knows she has to go back and reclaim her rightful place at the top, even if the world doesn't believe in her, even if it almost breaks her. This is a story about the cost of greatness and the burden of fame. The fight for a place in history is about to begin. ... It sounds really interesting. I've heard this might be her like favourite character that she's created, so I'm even more intrigued to write it, imagine. And it did come with a little signed slip. I think they ran out of books that had the signing like in the cover, so they were handing these out with them, which is sweet. I might just stick it in the book. But yeah, it was a really, really cool event. If there's any events near you of like an author that you know and love, or an author that you're not too knowledgeable about, I feel like listening to an author talk about their work is so interesting, because it's literally their child, like they created it. Hearing her talk about her books was fascinating, and I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend her books to anybody. Literally anybody who asks me for a book recommendation, Taylor Jenkins Reid will be one of the authors that I recommend every time. So that was a really cool start to my weekend. And I always do feel like when you do something on a Friday, the weekend feels longer because you've done something on a Friday night. So then if, say, you then go home late on a Friday, you still got the whole of Saturday, and then you still got the whole of Sunday. Whereas if you do something on a Saturday night and you wake up on Sunday like hungover, you've got work the next day. And my legs have gone numb, so I'm going to change position. Ow. In other news, I have read... Pretend you didn't see that. I read Ali Hazelwood's new book, Bride. And no, guys, I loved this book. Genuinely. It's really good. I gave it 4.75. So Ali Hazelwood is another one of those authors that it's got a bit of a cult following, and I think people really love the kind of rom-com formula that she is now very well known for. Some of her other books are The Love Hypothesis, Love Theoretically. I've read The Love Hypothesis and enjoyed it way more than I was expecting to. And everyone was talking about how she was bringing out a fantasy romance book. It's her first fantasy. I saw it in my local supermarket on discount, so I picked it up. And I absolutely loved it. I ate this up. Like, genuinely, as soon as I read the first page, nobody could stop me. I was done. I loved it. It was so good. Okay, let me explain. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it is basically a romance, but between a vampire and a werewolf. It's forced proximity. The vampire woman is married into the werewolves. It's giving Romeo and Juliet a little bit, because it's like vampires versus werewolves, but they're obviously like actually getting on. It's enemies to lovers also, because they're literally enemies, like their species are enemies. So that kind of makes the enemies to lovers trope a bit more fun, because there's literally high stakes. Like, they genuinely are, the species are, you know, But she is married into the werewolves to kind of be like a bit of a, I keep doing that, to be like a little bit of a peace treaty. Anyway, it's a little bit more complicated, and there is a lot of world building in this book to say it's a 400-page standalone. I mean, I think it's a standalone, currently it is. The world has a lot of politics. To understand the romance plot, you kind of have to understand like the politics and the world building, but I quite liked that. Like, it kind of it spices up a normal romance, because there's all these other elements involved. There's high stakes, there's the politics of the world, there's world building, there's lots of different relationships going on with the different characters, and then their kind of plot is the through line, but there's just so much more going on around it. And I think that's the thing sometimes with just a pure romance, is I can find it a little bit tedious just reading about the two people all the way through the book. Ali Hazelwood's writing, what she does really well is she writes fast-paced, funny characters who you just love. Like, you can't help but love her characters. I feel like the banter and the interactions between her characters are quite realistic, in a way where some romances I find it really cringy or like just too try hard, whereas these feel more like how people actually interact when they are in those situations. I find her characters really lovable. I found the plot really intriguing and fast-paced. It's funny, like, it's flirty, it's funny. I was giggling, I was kicking my feet. Some of it is weird because it's obviously a fantasy romance. There's some weird bits in there, but it all just adds to this whole thing of like, I am reading a book about vampires and werewolves and I'm loving it. You know, suspend your disbelief, just go with it. And I honestly really enjoyed it. When I first finished it, I was like, oh, 5-star. It's a 5-star. But when I actually sat on it for a little bit, I like bumped it down to a 4.75, just purely because I was thinking about other books that I've rated 5-star, and I was like, okay, maybe not. Guys, can anyone tell me why my camera just cuts off when I'm filming? It's so annoying. Guys, this literally happens every single time. But what I was trying to say was, she packs a lot into 400 pages. There's plot, there's character build, there's world build, there's politics, and it's all in 400 pages, and it's a really fun ride. So if you haven't read this and you've been intrigued, I can assure you it is worth the ride. It is really fun. It is a great palate cleanser, and I have been in a book slump recently. I just didn't really know what I was in the mood for, really, and this was the first book that I've picked up, read like the first couple of pages and was completely hooked. It was just such good fun. I have exciting news. I started the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I'm like actually kind of nervous about it, because you know when a series just is so hyped. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and I did have mixed views, to be fair, but overall I had a great time, and Aka Moth is now one of like my favourite books of all time. But when you hear people talk about A Court of Thorns and Roses and Sarah J. Maas, they talk about a Throne of Glass series as if it's like better. I am kind of nervous about it, but I'm excited to finally be reading it. I'm like 40% of the way through the first book, so I'm like just getting into it. There is a little bit of controversy I've heard that about the order that you read the books in, because when I went to start the series, I just ordered the Throne of Glass book, just presuming that that was the first one, which in some people's opinion it is, but then I think there's a book called The Assassin's Blade, which is like short stories, I believe, and some people say to read that first and then Throne of Glass. But yeah, I've gone for the order where you read Throne of Glass, another book, and then Assassin's Blade. So I don't know if that's right, but that's what I've gone with. So far, I would say I'm not like enthralled, like I'm not reading the book and like addicted to it or really excited to pick it up. I just kind of feel like I'm going through the motions a little bit. But I did feel like that with A Court of Thorns and Roses as well. I literally didn't enjoy the first book. So maybe it's the same. Maybe it's like you read the first book just for the world and the character building, and then it really gets like juicy after that. I genuinely have no idea, and I haven't heard any reviews other than people saying they love it. Wish me luck. I feel like it's an adventure, and it's definitely a commitment, because some of them books are chunky. I'm really excited to read it. I haven't read a big fantasy series since ACOTAR. I think that's it, guys. I just wanted to give you like a little update on some of the bookish things I've been up to recently. As always, this was a delight. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for clicking on and watching it. If you have any comments or feedback, let me know down below. It's been lovely. Thank you, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.